Hi, you're with Julian on the Brown Note and Brittany Higgins. Will the levee break? This is a follow-up to I Stand With Brittany Higgins that I did a few days ago. And in the wake of both Brittany Higgins, who accused Bruce Lerman of raping her in Parliament House and there being a 2-year government cover-up by Scott Morrison's government, went through an entire trial, and the juror, one juror who I wouldn't mind having a look into, killed that trial by accessing material he wasn't allowed to, and there was a mistrial declared when the jury were out deliberating, and due to Brittany Higgins' mental health, it was then revealed that she went AWOL from the trial and spent a number of days in a mental health facility after being found in a park in the pouring rain, as far as I know, suggesting that the toll of the last few years, who knew, was unsustainable on her mental health, leading the prosecutor in charge of prosecuting Bruce Lerman to withdraw a retrial, as he said it was an unacceptable risk on her life, causing right-wingers who apparently really go into bat for people accused of sexual harassment, assault and rape for some reason. Maybe they hate women, who can say, are cheering even though there was no innocent or guilty verdict. But one of the things that's really grating is they're saying, oh, she's backed out of the trial. Brittany Higgins testified in that trial. Bruce Lerman took silence. If I were accused of a rape I didn't do, I'd want to look that jury in the eye, because they would see that I was telling the truth. He didn't. Why didn't he? She spent a week on the stand testifying. She wasn't scared about the jury looking her in the eye. But that's just me. So what's happened since is Bruce Lerman is going to sue people for defamation. Whether he does or he doesn't, because it will likely involve him testifying, which he doesn't seem very keen to do. So whether that happens or not, I don't know. Brittany Higgins is suing the people involved. This could be a watershed moment. So she worked for Senator Linda Evans, who was a defence minister. The alleged rape was alleged to have happened in Linda Reynolds' office, and she then said in the days after, she told Linda Reynolds exactly what happened. Linda Reynolds said, something happened and I did meet with Brittany Higgins, but that the subject of rape never came up. Again, up to you what you believe there. When it all blew up 2 years later in the press, she took 6 weeks sick leave and didn't have to testify anymore about what Linda Reynolds knew, because she was on sick leave. And then when the trial happened, famously, eagle-eyed people in the media found that Linda Evans' husband was in the courtroom watching Brittany Higgins' testimony, despite the fact that Linda Evans was barred from that process as a witness. She wasn't allowed to watch what was being said, but her husband was found in the courtroom. And Linda Evans has said it's okay because he didn't tell me anything. And Linda Reynolds has really failed to cover herself in glory from start to finish. The people prosecuting the incoming compensation, $3 million compensation claim from Brittany Higgins towards her employer at the time, which was the Liberal Party. Allegedly, Linda Reynolds then leaked it to the press on the end of the trial, on the end of the second retrial, when that was announced that it was failing. Almost looks a bit like a PR campaign to again attack Brittany Higgins. So she's hardly covered herself in glory. And Michaelia Cash, another senator from the Liberal Party, was Brittany Higgins' boss. Again, although she acknowledges speaking with Brittany Higgins, and was her boss, and Brittany Higgins said she told her about the alleged rape, and that Michaelia Cash had basically told her to suck it up. Michaelia Cash also says, like everyone else in the Liberal Party, she only found out about this 2 years later when everyone else did. Now, the reason this is a watershed moment, when Cash and Reynolds were in government, they had a kind of government indemnity, which would stop their financial liability should anything happen to them, protecting them. They're not in government now. So what I'm thinking is these two will be put on the stand and have to either commit perjury if they are lying, or they'll have to come clean. Now, a really bad option here is if the Liberal Party managed to settle out of court. I am praying that doesn't happen. And it would, to me, be a massive admission of guilt on their part, because the saddest thing about this trial so far, and all of the legal ramifications, is if the Liberal Party, whilst in government, all of the senior people knew about the, even if you don't believe her, alleged rape of Brittany Higgins, then they covered it up to win an election and covered it up for the next 2 years and all lied about it. And they've so far got away, if that's true, scot-free. Scot-free being a very ironic use of that term here. What I'm thinking now is if they don't settle out of court, Linda Reynolds and Michaelia Cash may throw Scott Morrison under a bus to save themselves. They may end up being put in a position where because they can't get moved around. So what happens with the Liberal Party a lot is people get accused. Someone like Scott Morrison gets accused of something. Usually a woman steps up and takes the blame and gets shunted off into the wilderness pretending she's sacked. And then they get a really cushy 400 grand a year job, down the track. That's not an option here for Cash or Reynolds because they're not in government. So they might find themselves in the position of saying the boss made me do it. And I want more than almost anything except justice for Brittany Higgins, whatever that is, to see the Liberal Party pay for this. So, and for all roads to lead to Scott Morrison. Personally, it's impossible for Scott Morrison not to have known everything that happened, which means that he would have lied about the alleged rape of a staff member for 2 years and done it to win an election. And the other thing that's shown up is the appalling treatment of women in sexual assault, and all the way down to 4-year-olds. There was another story that came out a little while ago about how the cross-examination of a 7-year-old was so traumatic that the guy got off for abusing a child, and the other 4-year-old child who accused this man ended up not being able to testify because she was too young. But all the way up to adult, the re-traumatizing of people that are in the situation Brittany Higgins was in, the unbelievable trauma of that trial and testifying, and her every move, including all the text messages on her phone, being fair game, whereas Bruce Lehrmann's history and character weren't even on the table, and that seems to be how rape trials progress. Another thing we really need to know about, we need our journalists to dig deep here. Who is Bruce Lehrmann? So, we know bits and bobs about this guy. We know absolutely everything about Brittany Higgins. He was born in a small Texas town. He's 27 now, which means he was about 23 to 24 when this rape allegation occurred. Details about Bruce's father and mother and siblings are missing because he never talks about his family. He became a young liberal, pretty bad thing to become, in 2013. So he was a teen when he was working for the coalition. And he said that he was studying at the Australian National University, pursuing a dual degree, but didn't graduate because he's too lazy. Now, how in tarnation does a 23-year-old who hasn't finished his degree because he's too lazy get a $200,000 a year job as a senior advisor to the defence senator, to the Minister for Defence? How is that possible? What is going on in the background here with Liberal Party appointments that you've got a 23-year-old that hasn't finished his degree as a senior advisor on $200,000 a year? I would love this federal corruption body to go through every single Liberal appointment with a fine-tooth comb, because how are these people getting paid so much money? How are they getting such great jobs? There is supposed to be legal ombudsmen to ensure fairness in hiring. I used to work in the health service. I used to have to sit on boards with 2 staff members from a department and a third, me, or another independent that wasn't from that department, to ensure fairness in the hiring process. Look at Barnaby Joyce's floozy at the time, getting a $195,000 a year job or whatever she had that wasn't advertised to anyone else and didn't exist before she got it. This kind of stuff really needs to be gone through. And who's financing Bruce Lerman's trials? We know there's a couple of pro bono, high-profile lawyers doing it, but Christian Porter got $1 million to bankroll his trial and refused to tell anyone where it came from. Who's backing Bruce Lerman? There's been lots of judicious leaks to the press, and now there's a full-blown battle between the public prosecutor and the police, with both sides attacking each other. The public prosecutor is accusing the police of continually being on Bruce Lerman's side. The police are saying there was never enough evidence. It seems that the press have got hold of confidential information as well from the police. So this stinks. It stinks to high heaven. I want to know about Bruce Lerman's past, his employment history. Has anything else happened? We know that in total there's around 6 women that have accused Bruce Lerman of sexual harassment, abuse or rape. And another 3 came forward at the start of this becoming public. And people are saying, well, if it was true, they'd come forward. If you'd have watched the last 2 years of the treatment of Brittany Higgins, why would you come forward? That would never happen. So it's put people off coming forward, and it's almost like that's by design in the system. But imagine if these women actually do come forward now. It's symbolic of Australia's inbuilt misogyny, and the people that have attacked Brittany Higgins as an ideological point. I mean, these people are flat out liars, because it doesn't matter if all these other women do come forward and do testify against Bruce Lerman, or Bruce Lerman has some shonky stuff in his past. You'll still believe him because you're attacking Brittany Higgins from an ideological point of view. You're clinging to that innocent until proven guilty as a pretense for the fact that you just don't like Brittany Higgins, and you refuse to acknowledge that you're sexist because you think that you've got a different reason every time you don't like a woman and choose a man over a woman. You always say it's because of X reason, but yet you always fall on the same side. So stop lying to yourself. Anyway, I really hope that the incoming trials go all the way to Scott Morrison, and I'd love to know a little bit more about Bruce Lerman and his history and how he got that job and what these other women have to say, and I hope that that starts to come through. I still stand with Brittany Higgins, and she has been an astonishing rock of courage, and she has really been a bellwether for bringing the absolute worst scum in Australia out of the woodwork.